Welcome to the Will Leitch Show. I am the aforementioned Will Leitch, and I thank you for spending part of your day with me. Today's show is about the curse of athletic brilliance. I think a lot about Barry Sanders. Barry Sanders was born to be a football running back. His body is the platonic ideal of a running back. He was compact, wiry, short, explosive, and of course, mind-bendingly fast. And the way his mind worked, the way he always seemed to know a hole was open before everybody else, it made him even better. It made him the best. And if you were to specifically construct a body and mind that would be the perfect running back, it would be Barry Sanders. But this is the part I always get hung up on. What if there were no football? Barry Sanders has the exact right body to succeed at football, but genetics do not actually know that football exists. If football hadn't been invented, or if more realistically, if running backs weren't so valued at the exact moment Barry Sanders came of age, he would just be a squat, muscular dude with these incredible athletic gifts and absolutely nothing to do with them. I think about this a lot, and not just because I like to imagine that my body is in fact the platonic ideal for some as yet uninvented sport, and it's my secret tragedy to walk around the world undiscovered, but also because of all the pressure that comes with God-given talent like the kind that Barry Sanders has, and Mike Trout has, Serena Williams has, or Lionel Messi has. To be a professional athlete, to be the best professional athlete, is the dream of hundreds of millions of human beings. I would trade just about everything but my children to be bestowed with that sort of talent. And to be honest, you could probably negotiate me down to just one of them. I'm just kidding, boys. And these rare people, these physical geniuses, they have been given a thunderbolt from the gods, and I cannot imagine that sort of pressure. If I were LeBron James, I'd be nervous walking down the street that I would step in a pothole and break my leg. Every normal, everyday activity would be fraught with the possibility of losing it all. To have natural talent you didn't even ask for, that everyone on earth wants, it must feel like carrying $100 million in this suitcase with you at all times. Everybody's staring at you, resenting that you have it, and you know deep down that something could come out of nowhere and take it all away in a second. That's why I tend to respect the superstars more than the plucky, gritty underdogs that sports fans usually gravitate toward. Anyone can hustle hard and wring what little talent they have just to scrape along. It is the truly blessed who have to maximize their otherworldly talent and learn to live with their burden. Because to be the best means, in the eyes of the world, and surely in the eyes of yourself, that you must always feel that you're never quite good enough. For all of these things to come together, talent, opportunity, drive, the sport your body is perfect for actually existing, it feels like a miracle every time we see it. Superstars aren't like us, and that's what makes them so amazing. It is honestly magic. Our next guest is a senior writer for Sports Illustrated. We literally just saw him coming through the halls and just said, come on in. Host of SITV's Planet Football, author of the new book, Masters of Modern Soccer, and Princeton University alum, Grant Wahl. Sir, thank you very much. Charmed.
Great to see everyone.
Yes, I want you to explore the studio space a little bit. I don't know if you were familiar with this at all, but
it's totally different from the studio where we do Planet Football.
I know exactly. Yes, really. Exactly. That's overseas, offshore somewhere. So this is the book, Masters of Modern Soccer. I've been a big fan of yours forever, so I'm very honored to have you on. And one of the things I want to talk about the show is something you kind of touch on in the book a little bit, which is the idea of how much effort and work it is to be blessed with this unbelievable talent in the world. And I think about this all the time. My RSA was a little bit about Barry Sanders, about how Barry Sanders is like this perfect American football player, and it's just lucky, he's like almost built specifically to play football. Fortunately, football was invented. Otherwise, he'd just be a guy walking around like Barry Sanders, not being able to do that. And I find it fascinating to see. I'm always more impressed by superstars than scrubs. Because people love the scrubs. We're American sports fans. We like the David Ecksteins. But to me, what superstars, to be blessed with that talent and the pressure that comes with that, and then how you have to then improve on that, seems much more stressful than being like one of those guys that like squeezes every last bit of your talent out.
I agree with you on that, too. I used to cover basketball before I did full-time soccer. I did LeBron James's first cover story for Sports Illustrated, and I remember the pressure he was under as a high school junior, partly by us putting him on the cover, but how well he responded to that in a very short amount of time as well. And so the same goes for soccer, you know, except it's even more on a global level. And having spent time now around some of the biggest stars in the game, they have to bring it every day. And if you're Lionel Messi, you have literally millions and millions of other professional players and people out there who are gunning for you.
Yeah, and everything that you do is what they want to be, or they want to take you down, and so that notion, people talk about the celebrity of particularly in soccer, the celebrity of sport, and the idea that these guys are global celebrities everywhere. But it almost feels like more pressure to me to actually perform in the games. Like that feels like more pressure than than anything else. The idea that you have to be Messi all the time. You don't get to, there's a great joke about one of the reasons that mothers in suburbia love soccer for their little kids is because they can run around for an hour and no one actually knows if they did well or if they did poorly. And you can't do that when you're on that top level. You're like the star. And you kind of talk about that in the book a little bit too. Talk about a little bit these guys, how difficult it is for them to transfer their kind of God-given their talent and then transfer that into actual performance and the things they have to do just to become decent, let alone great.
Well, this book is about the craft of soccer, position by position. So I picked one person to represent: goalkeeper, Manuel Neuer; defender, Vincent Kompany. And I picked guys who were world-class or close to it, but also really intelligent at explaining how they do the craft of their sport. And one of the themes that came through very clearly is from a guy like Vincent Kompany or Xabi Alonso, the defensive midfielder, that even though these are guys who've won the Premier League, who've won the Champions League, who've won the World Cup in Xabi Alonso's case, even into his 30s, it was an ongoing education that soccer is a game that you think, is a quote from Chicharito Hernandez, the forward in my book. It's not just about athleticism, and obviously that's tremendously important, but you always need to be evolving and learning new things as a player. And I found it interesting that three of my figures, Manuel Neuer, the goalkeeper, Kompany, and Alonso, all played for Pep Guardiola, who's viewed as the best manager in the sport today. And they all said into their 30s, they were still learning all these new things from Guardiola about positioning and other aspects of the game. And these guys didn't necessarily, they could have rested on their laurels and said, I don't need to learn it.
Or feel like I solved it. Like I've got, I'm great. I've got it figured out. And to still learn everything that, but is it just, is this something that, is it different for a star? I guess, it feels like if I'm a middling player, I'm constantly learning things all the time. Please tell me more, because I'm just scraping on as I can. But when you are a star, is there that idea that you have to live up to yourself, actually, I guess, at all that time?
Yeah, there is. I mean, you have a situation where if you're Messi, who's not in this book, and I'll explain why he's not in this book later, or if you're Chicharito, he's the all-time leading goal scorer for the Mexican national team, and there's always that constant pressure. Chicharito Hernandez, I would argue, is the most famous Mexican in the history of the world. He played for Real Madrid and Manchester United in the satellite television era. So
there's no pressure involved in that.
And just that global recognition, especially if you're a goal scorer, because you've got a very specific thing you have to do that shows whether you're doing well or not.
If you don't do it, they're like, what's wrong? You're not you.
Right. And so in talking to him, so much about being a forward who's responsible for goals is not to get too high or too low. And to remember that in the modern game, which is what this book is about, that a huge part of your job is just to deal with the mass amount of games that you're always constantly playing, because it's not just the 38 league games that you play each year. You've got cup competitions, domestic cups, European Champions League or Europa League. They're always coming, and this game is so punishing and demanding that just being prepared to perform at your best is a bigger challenge than it used to be.
All right, so first of all, I have to ask, I've been looking at this book, I've noticed that Messi is not in here. Why isn't Messi?
I've interviewed Lionel Messi. We did a cover story for Sports Illustrated a couple of years ago, and I enjoyed the interview. A couple of reasons why Messi's not in this book. I think he's a genius. And I don't use that word lightly. I'm not someone who just kind of throws it out there. I don't think what he does is very repeatable in a craft sense. And the craft of the sport, to me, is more about what is repeatable at a very high level. And so that's what each player is talking about in this position. And when I interviewed Messi, as much as I liked the guy, he, like most athletes, could only go so far in verbalizing what he does, that genius, on the field.
It's kind of the Ted Williams problem, right? Like I was talking about Ted Williams, how he was a terrible manager because he was just like, do what I do. Why can't you do that?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's a very similar thing. I think it's no coincidence that several of the figures in this book will be managers someday, want to be. Vincent Kompany, Xabi Alonso's recently retired, already preparing to be a manager. They'll be very good managers as well. And so that's the kind of person I was looking for, was someone who you might see, like Vincent Kompany's already done television work in England and for ESPN during the Euro, and was very good at it.
Right.
So you know that whatever he wants.
It's coming from the same place, right?
Yeah, and so for me, it was just a wonderful experience to sit with Vincent Kompany for 2 hours watching video clips of him playing and asking him, kind of like the annoying fan, but like,
what was this part?
What were you thinking here?
Yeah.
You know,
and was he able to like just recall it right back up, or would he have to be like, okay, journalist, I'll give you a little answer, or does it like? Because I talk to a lot of players, and like you'll tell them, oh, you might not remember this 2-3 count, 2-1 count in this game 5, and he's like, oh yeah, here's exactly what I was thinking in that exact moment.
Actually, Christian Pulisic, the young American star, is the attacking midfielder in this book. He's the first chapter, and we had a long conversation watching video of his games, and the video clips were not in any sort of chronological order. They were just sort of hodgepodge. And he could remember instantly the exact situation, the exact game. And this is a guy who's been playing for a couple years now. And finally I stopped him and I said, Christian, do you have like a photographic memory or something? And he's like, with stuff like this, I do. And
let's check with him in 15 years. He's 19. We'll see how much he remembers in 15 years. I can't remember where my keys are. I mean, so that kind of leads to the next question, which is obviously the book is coming out with the World Cup coming up. You're about to go out there. We had you to Freelander on the last show. A lot of it was about dealing with our grief in the wake of that. I'm curious, and obviously having Pulisic be the first chapter in the book, there was the anticipation that a lot of people had that this was going to be. Do you feel like being involved in the production, like you're literally going to be out there, you're going to be out there the whole month, we're going to see you on television constantly. Have you prepared any differently for this one now that you know the U.S. is, obviously the U.S. angle is not going to be the immediate angle that you turn around. I'm now up for it. I'm ready. It took me a while. I went through the grieving process, and I'm okay. I'm picking my favorite teams and who I want and so on. But certainly the shift must have been absolutely dramatic for everybody involved, not just, of course, what you do here, but, of course, with Fox.
Yeah, I mean, and let's not sugarcoat it. This is crushing.
It's horrible.
For soccer in the United States not to have the U.S. men's national team at the World Cup. It's also reality. And so maybe people will appreciate in the future a bit more what it takes to qualify for the World Cup. In a way, this book was a good preparation for me because I built these close relationships with people outside of the United States. And I've had some of those relationships in the past with other people in the sport, but you know, this was a 2-year process of interviews, multiple times sitting down with everyone. And so Belgium has a shot to win the World Cup, and they're a tremendously talented team. Roberto Martinez, the coach, is the manager in this book. Vincent Kompany is their captain and defender. So I think I'll be in contact with them a fair amount in Russia.
I guess just from a TV perspective, obviously, like this book, like if there were no World Cup, this book is like a great book to read. But I mean, like just in the television preparation for it, the idea that like everything had to have been focused on the not entirely focused, but certainly it's the when the U.S. isn't playing. One night they're going to come up at some point in the telecast because that's what a lot of people, at least America-wise, are going to be looking to watch. Has that been a downshift? How has everyone kind of adjusted to the fact that, that it's going to be hard? Like, listen, I always joke the World Cup, these times are perfect for day drinking. Like, they're the perfect kind of summer times for it, right? And maybe not the first one, but later. And that's something that I think a lot of American fans, that's become a big thing in the last few years with like this collective gathering, and that's lost. Is it hard? Like, is it adjusting what you're doing out there, or do you feel you're just there to sell the sport?
Well, I'll be working it for Fox Sports. They're the English language rights holders, and their strategy has basically shifted from the U.S. being a major part of it to, I think this is smart. They're going to focus on stars. So Messi, Ronaldo, Neymar. Be ready for a lot of discussion on Fox of those guys, and also coverage.
I've heard of them. I think that we could use some more.
And also coverage of the Mexican national team, which I argue is the most popular soccer team in the United States. I mean, this is a team that sells out NFL stadiums for exhibition games in a way that we don't see the U.S. national.
I was in Atlanta at the Georgia Dome for that horrible loss that they had to Jamaica in the Gold Cup. And to watch I was like, oh, well, they lost because the U.S. played the first game and they lost. And I was like, man, this place is going to empty out. It was literally the exact opposite because Mexico played right after that. So I think you're right. I think that's important to remember as well. Well, the book, we have more questions for you, but I just want to make sure everybody knows that this is the book and you need to buy it. It's really good. It's Grant. Grant is awesome. Now we have something else for you, though.
Yeah.
Now you have to play.
Let's do it.
Now you have to get in these are the things we call the frivolous questions of dubious import. Okay,
I'm in.
so be ready. These are very challenging. I'm holding you accountable. Okay, question number one. Famously, a few years ago, you ran or almost ran for president of FIFA. If you would have won, do you think that you would be in jail right now?
Ooh. I would not be in jail right now because I am not Sepp Blatter. I have never had anyone come up to me and make it rain like that over my head.
Well, not even in college when you were a little hard up for money and it needed just trying to pass it.
No, sir. I'm sure that the FIFA presidency would have impacted me, but I would not be in jail.
You would not be in jail. Okay.
I don't think.
It's good to know. This is the second question. At this precise second, which has more corruption going on? FIFA or America?
Look,
it's Michael Cohen. What's he doing here?
That's actually a wonderful question. I am going to say that FIFA right now has less than the United States. It makes it a little hard as an American to write a cover FIFA shenanigans at this point.
That is a dark place where we've gotten to.
We are here, my friend.
No, I'm just going to prefer to say that FIFA has just gotten clean. And that's what it is. It has nothing to do. Okay, speaking of the U.S. team, I'm an avid fan still. We talked about Pulisic earlier. How embarrassed should I personally be that I own a jersey of a 19-year-old? And wear it. I'm 42 years old, and I walk around in public, and I'm like, yeah, look at me.
I love that you're willing to do that, and it shows how important Christian Pulisic has become. My personal thing as a 44-year-old man is I collect soccer uniform shorts, not shirts, for a few reasons. Because shirts start to make me feel like, I'm a grown man, and but also,
you're right. It's totally stupid.
But if you go to the gym, soccer uniform shorts aren't too long like basketball shorts, and they're not too short like runner's shorts.
Right.
Okay, and so I wear soccer uniform shorts.
All right. By the way, I think there was a miscommunication. I just have like the name of like a 19-year-old that lives down the street. It's not Pulisic at all. I guess I can see why you would think that. But no. I guess in either way, it's embarrassing, and one probably illegal. Okay, question number 4, considering some of your history with the country, do you secretly root against Honduras every single time that they play in a game? And for those that don't remember, he was robbed for Sports Illustrated.
Mugged at gunpoint, covering a qualifier in Honduras.
Right after you had talked to the president of Honduras, correct? Yes. So he didn't do it. It wasn't him.
It was quite a day. He actually said it must have been a supporter of his rival.
Yes. I said, thanks. Waka, waka, waka.
Yeah.
I'm the guy that had the gun in my back, pal.
Exactly.
So do you, regardless of whether you want to go there again, do you have a certain kind of...
I'm good with Honduras
You're good,
now.
cool?
People were so apologetic about what happened there, and I have actually a lot of friends who are Honduran in the U.S. soccer media, mostly Spanish language media, who are wonderful, wonderful people. So Honduras, we're good.
You should rob one of those guys, just in case, just to even the collective score. Should we all apologize to Freddie Adu? Do we all collectively owe an apology to Freddie Adu?
Here's my thing with Freddie Adu. He didn't make it, right? He's still playing second division now out in Las Vegas.
I mean, he had a little boomlet. There was a brief little stretch after the fall where it looked like, hey, maybe, and then
he started the 2011 Gold Cup final.
Absolutely.
And I don't feel badly for him because he made quite a bit of money, has made quite a bit of money in his career, and so I feel like in many ways, in that sense, he's been in decent shape. Is it a bummer that I remember covering Freddie Adu right around the time LeBron James came out?
They were absolutely
right around the same time, and here we are. You had smart people saying this guy could be one of the best soccer players in the world, and obviously he didn't make it. He was the highest paid soccer player in MLS. At the age of 14, Will. Think about that.
Okay, that's insane, but also does make me feel like we shouldn't apologize. At 14, I was detasseling corn. in Illinois, 14. Okay, I always have kind of asked this question. This is a question we ask on every show. When you've done your television work for Fox Sports, have you ever had to have pink eye like Bob Costas at the Olympics? Did that ever happen? Have you ever had to go through something
Thankfully,
like that?
my wife is an infectious disease doctor,
Yes,
and
she's
so
on it.
I have never.
She needed to be there in Sochi that year.
She would have said, if I had pink eye, do not go anywhere.
Right, stay out, yeah.
Stay away
He
from
gutted it out, man. He gutted it out. He stayed on as long as they would let him stay on. I just never get tired of that photo. Okay, a little harder, more basic question. How many MLS teams will there be in 20 years?
I've asked owners this question. I get anywhere from 30 to like 40. And that's crazy to me, with the exception of if they do have internal promotion and relegation, like an MLS 1 and an MLS 2.
Which they say they're not going to do, right? Like that's the...
I've heard that.
There was that offer from, the kind of fake offer.
Well, there's total promotion and relegation. We have different pyramids like levels 1 through 6. And there's just movement in between. But if you had just movement between MLS 1 and 2, then you could actually still limit the league to 40 teams. And have 2 leagues of 20, so I could theoretically see something like that.
Because I know it's my Atlanta United pin. I'm an Atlanta United fan.
You're all in, man.
I'm all in, and they have the Atlanta United 2 that plays in Gwinnett. That's like the but I like one of the reasons they're successful is because Atlanta United is really successful. So I wonder could they ever get promoted to where there's 2 Atlanta Uniteds? That's what I want. All 20 teams to be Atlanta United.
We may get there eventually. There's so many fans in Atlanta right now, they could probably fill multiple stadiums.
Absolutely. Okay, another question related to MLS and your job. Alexi's dyeing his hair, right? Like it's dyed. Like, come on. I mean, he's 48, 49. I mean, the beard is, not exactly the same.
I was with him in 2000 at the Olympics when he shaved the long
beard. Did the big one, right.
Which was a huge moment.
The Stone Temple Pilots thing, yes.
I actually, quick story here. I was once doing a story in northern Israel on an Arab-Israeli player at a club there, played for the Israeli national team. And I said to him once, and he didn't really speak great English, but I said, what do you know about American soccer? And he looks at me and he goes, which I told the story to Alexi, and he was like, he's a global
that's
icon.
Great. That would make me feel very good. And I would probably never shave it. Yeah, I would probably never shave it after that. How much can you not wait to go to Qatar? How much can you just cannot wait to go to Qatar?
You know what? There's so many reasons not to have the World Cup in Qatar.
Yes. Or in November or whenever the heck.
Yeah, I'd rather actually go in November simply because it's tolerable temperature-wise. But that World Cup's going to be competing against the NFL and college football, and so that's all going to be an issue. You hope the U.S. qualifies for that World Cup as well. The one thing that it has going for it, and there's all sorts of problems like human rights violations and the way they treat homosexuals, all that stuff. It's a disaster. But you will be able to stay in the same bed.
Yeah, okay, that's true. Because it's all in the general same spot.
Yeah, covering Brazil in 2014.
They were all over the place, right? Yeah.
It was fun, but we were always in transit.
Yeah. Okay. Well, good. So
got that going for it.
Okay, so basically what Grant just said is he is okay with human rights violations as long as he can only stay in his bed. And the last question, you mentioned, you brought her up earlier. You, like me, have a wife who is much smarter and much better for the world than people like us who write about sports for a living. Does she ever make fun of your job?
Oh yeah, she doesn't like sports or soccer. I mean,
she does great things for the planet and the world and helps people. And we type about how angry we are at Michael Brown.
It puts things in perspective when your wife is one of people's 25 women changing the world, and you write about sports for a living.
Right. So does she make fun? She's like, oh, what did you do today? Did you do a couple blog posts? Oh.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah, my wife does that too. She's not one of the top 25, but she's getting there. I think she was like 33. It's also receiving votes. Okay, now we're going to do a quick game.
Yes.
We actually call it Crest Exam. We're going to test your ability to identify international teams, soccer teams' crests.
I'm going to be embarrassed probably here.
But perhaps, probably not. You're a very smart guy. So we're going to show you the crest, and you tell me what country that is. Okay, the first crest is...
Three Lions of England.
That is correct. That's great. Also recommend everyone to see the movie Three Lions, by the way, which is really, really funny, by the way. But that's not about soccer. Okay, next one.
Tougher. I am going to say, is this a team in the World Cup?
No.
So I'm going to say Algeria?
It is Hungary. Hungary is correct.
Wow.
Okay, next one, there's that one. Yep, that's right. Next.
My goodness, you guys are difficult. must be an African team. I am going to say Zambia.
Kenya. You are correct there. You were with the African. Okay, next, 2 more.
That looks like Serbia.
Correct. Good job. And the final one.
Oof. Are those muskets at the bottom there? What is that? I am gonna say Armenia.
Those are in fact brooms at the bottom because that's Gryffindor. That's the Gryffindor crest. That's the Gryffindor crest. That was a tough one. Because those are brooms. Okay, final. We finish up every show with basically we don't call it outbursts because we don't own the rights to outbursts. So we call it how fast can you say things on this show with Will that you're on right now. 30 seconds on the clock. I'm going to give you a category. Just shoot it. And the mistake that everybody makes on the show, there are no wrong answers. I mean, there are wrong answers, but you're not punished for wrong answers. So when I give you the category, just shoot out. You have 30 seconds to shoot as many names as you want, and I'll let you know who's right or not. So 30 seconds on the clock. Name the 10 players. There's actually a 3-way tie for 9th, so there's 12. So get extra credit for you. Name the 10 players with the most U.S. men's national team caps. The 10 players, go.
Kobe Jones.
Yes.
Claudio Reyna.
Yes.
Eric Winalda.
No.
Alexi Lalas.
Yes. No.
Marcelo Balboa.
Yes.
Chris Henderson.
No.
No. Tony Meola.
No.
Casey Keller.
No.
Brad Friedel.
No.
Tim Howard.
Yes.
Michael Bradley.
Yes.
Josie Altidore.
Yes.
Clint
And
Dempsey.
time.
Landon
Dempsey
Donovan.
just under the buzzer. Dempsey is correct. You did get Dempsey. You did very well. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7. Good job. You missed Jeff Agus.
Yep.
DeMarcus Beasley.
Yep.
Carlos Bocanegra. Paul Caligari, whatever I said correctly, and Landon Donovan.
Landon Donovan,
could have
which is
gone
kind
up a
of
little bit up on the list, but
I think I got him in right at the very end there.
oh yeah, that counts. That's actually how his name is in Swahili. Okay, the book is Masters of Modern Soccer. Grant, it is an honor to. I'm glad you just happened to be walking down the hall.
Amazing coincidence.
We had to
wasn't
come
it?
in. But the book is Masters of Modern Soccer. Buy it. It is great. Grant is the best. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you so much.
I am Will Leitch. This is the Will Leitch Show. Go watch his Planet Football show somewhere around your little clicking dial. Otherwise, enjoy the rest of Sports Illustrated, SI.com's television programming. Bye.